This is a re-release of a podcast that was originally recorded in 2012, an interview with Titus Fuchs that lasted almost 3 hours. We have divided it into 2 parts to make it easier for you to listen to. This is part 2.
Yes, I am alive. Thanks, Jeff. And Chris, so let's get into something that happened somewhat recently, I guess, if you want to put together go straight through my activity levels. When FedEx invaded Show, back when Show was still in Wrassle, what was going through your head when Gino, I think it was Gino, came up with the idea to you?
Amazing. I'd spoke on the underground in Wrassle before about you guys coming back. Because I was in as I said, I was in NGPW when you guys all left, and so I always wanted you guys to come back. So when Gino put it to me, it was like, well, whatever I can do to make this happen, I'm gonna do it. Wrassle was really calling out for guys like you, basically, and yeah, so I just did everything I could to make that happen.
Now, did you foresee it going as well as it did? I mean, from our standpoint, we had a ball going there. I mean, we all went in pretty much with extremely high activity levels. It was a fresh new start for us. How do you feel your guys pretty much reacted to it?
Some of them reacted well. I think Kid probably reacted the best. Some of them seemed to just drop off. Some of them just weren't expecting it. And I think it's because of the way it was built as well, because we'd been talking about Genocide coming in for a couple of months and he hadn't shown up yet. And everybody had starting to forget about it and move on. And then suddenly Genocide shows up and so does FedEx with him. I think a lot of people weren't ready for it. They didn't think it was actually going to happen.
Yeah, I gotta say, I remember the first 2 weeks, and I think it was pretty much all of us were trying to pick and choose a guy from your roster who to feud with, who to target. But I think after about 2 weeks, the field definitely dwindled down, and we were kind of picking up scraps almost.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the other thing that you have to keep in mind is it wasn't like you got 7 guys to show up and start playing. You got 7 guys who at the top of their game would normally attack each other, run angles, intermingled, who came in and went, we're all going to be on the same. I mean, Max and Gino working together, Alan and Excess working together, Marlo and Ryan Scott and Rev Future. And I mean, what you got were a collection of guys who are really strong in a Fed when they're going at each other, who decided to come in and just go at your guys.
Yeah, I mean, you may hate me for saying this, but I think Talent was a better stable than the good guys. I loved Talent. It was just amazing.
That's fair. It worked.
Even when it was lowercase by what was it, Mountain?
Yeah. and to be fair, the good guys angle had gone off before that in Federation X, and it was really a largely good guy driven, let's go do this. Oh, I forgot Stan. How do I forget Stan? But it was largely a good guy driven, let's go off and do this. And then we added the guys who hadn't been good guys, but were always real close with all of us, guys like Max and guys like XS, and called it Talent because it allowed us to really be jerks and go, if you're not Talent, who are you? And I think we ran with that to the point that some guys probably got actually offended by it.
Yeah, I know they did.
Yeah, those were definitely some very good times we had. Probably some of the most fun I had in Wrassle in a long time. I mean, not that I was playing there for a while, but even just trying to poke fun at the Great Lotus and him rolling with it. I mean, our constant mocking of him, and he was always coming back. My Ask XS segments with with Mountain or or a pile of shit, whichever one. Those are some very fun times.
They were, and I think I can only speak for myself, but I'll tell you, for me, the liberating part was finally playing in a place where I didn't care who quit. Do you know how long it's been since I've been in a scenario where if a guy screwed up, I could hammer him and not have to worry about whether or not he ran away and quit the game?
True.
And not that that's ever my goal, but I went through a period with Ed where I actually lightened up on how I treated people for fear that they would quit. And going in that scenario, I had written off not wanting to be around the vagina monologues, the Real Housewives of Schaumburg that was going on in Federation X, and we go into Wrassle where I am persona non grata for a long time with the EC. So what did I care if their guys got their nose bent out of shape? I was going to go in and have fun no matter what. For me, it was one of the few periods where I really felt like I could just cut loose and be a complete douchebag.
It was fun reading, made for fun reading.
Yeah, it's a shame that had to end quickly.
Yeah, definitely. I'd have loved to have seen that like in a month, 2 months. I'd have loved to have seen what happened.
It really got preempted. I mean, we were still in full roll when the site went down, and it changed everything.
Yeah, definitely. I was expecting, the wrestlers in the other feds, as they saw what we were doing there, I was expecting, okay, maybe we'll have a little turnover in the show roster. People will want to come up and step up to a challenge of facing all of us. But unfortunately, that all died quickly.
But Chris, you got some requests, right?
Yeah. As soon as you guys showed up, it was like I had people like blowing up my PM box, like I want to be in show, I want to come to show, and I was having to turn people down because I had a full roster. I couldn't take them. I was like, well, now that we've got all this going, the people who were semi-active and stuff, not pulling the weight, I was planning to just get rid of them and bring up the new people who were wanting to come in, but unfortunately that didn't happen. But yeah, there was a list of people who wanted to join the show when you guys showed up.
Now, Chris, let's get into something much more recent.
Hold on. Before we transition to that, I want to ask Chris, because I know that he and I briefly had this conversation. Chris, this move to let us come wasn't fully endorsed, right?
No, not at all. No.
What were the concerns? I know there were concerns. I know there were players or EC members who basically said, I think this is a bad idea. I don't think you should do it.
Well, Clive spoke to me about it. He was happy about it. He did make that clear. He was happy to see you guys back. But his worry was that you guys all came in, stole any talent we had, and then left again and left Wrassle in tatters, which is kind of understandable. I guess.
Definitely.
So,
I would have thought the same exact thing if I was him.
Yeah. So, but he was still willing to let me, cut a lot of corners to get you guys there. And as I said, he was really happy. But then there was other people on the EC board who were just straight out like, this isn't going to work out. Like, these guys are going to come in. I've known them for a while. They're going to fuck it all over and then they'll be gone. Yeah, like I think my neck was pretty much on the line with that whole thing. And they were just waiting for it to happen so they could say, told you so.
Well, but I think that's a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy too, because the truth is we were clearly looking for a change of pace and you were providing it. And as long as you could keep us entertained, we'd stay. Would we have stayed forever? No, I didn't build Federation X so I could play in Wrassle forever. But man, we might have been there for 6 months. We might have been there for longer. And for anybody to look at that and go, well, your neck's on the line. In my mind, your answer is, hey, for 6 months, it's the best thing this game has seen in how long?
I actually said something to that effect. I was like, does it matter how long they're here for? The fact is they're here. There's a ton of heat. If they leave in a couple of months, then, we've just had a good couple of months of activity, But yeah, they were all ready to you know.
I have a question, if it's all right.
course.
What prompted it to end? I wasn't around for any of this, so.
Wrassle closed.
Wrassle. Yeah, it died.
Wait, this happened before Wrassle just shut down?
Yeah, something to do with a server.
What, 3 weeks?
Yeah,
Is that,
3
is
weeks.
that about right? Yeah, 3 weeks-ish. We had been there when the server fried, and apparently they didn't have a backup.
I still think it's really weird.
Max used the opportunity that he was there to take credit for it. And since Jordan's finally chimed in, let's just point out that Jordan was the one guy who didn't participate. That I think I briefly sent him something to say, find some motivation and get in here and do this.
No, dude, I never got anything from him.
Oh, and see, now you're going to force me to go dig it up, and I keep a lot of this stuff, Jordan.
Look, I promise you, no one ever contacted me.
I'm going to find it, and you're going to get rubbed in your
I
face.
found out from Eric, and by the time I did, it was already happening.
Yeah, still would have been a blast. I mean, I know that as soon as Carnage saw it happening, he was one of the guys that said he wanted to come to show.
Yeah. Osiris too.
Oh, yeah.
Who I like. Yeah, he was wanting to come.
Okay. Why don't you take it over again, Jason?
Surely. So something a little opposite of in character heat. Let's talk about a little OOC heat you had with Creamo
Right.
as he retired during a match. And I unfortunately was not around the boards when this happened. So if you can remember, please give me a little play-by-play of what led up to it and then what was said as you retired.
When you get to the point that you need to recount it, I have it on my screen in front of me.
This is a beautiful
there you
moment.
go. Yeah, read it out because I can't really fully remember.
Let's see. The post begins with applause, and then it says, "Not for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air shit. I'm clapping because of the Creamo bashing. I'd be careful, though. He's friends with Hulk Hogan. You don't want him to run wild on you. Speaking of which, I wonder how good old Terry would react to the fact that his best friend thinks, in so many words, that his matches suck. I wonder what the Hulkster, WWE Hall of Famer, would have to say about this two-bit jabroni who apparently graduated from the WCW power plant, saying he couldn't put together a wrestling match. Hey, I know. I can ask Archangel, because he's really Terry Bollea, isn't he? Or so you said one time, right? Now, apologies go out to Drew. You've been such a sport during this match, and I have had a ton of fun, which is the most important thing. I don't give a shit if I win or lose, so long as I have a good time. I'm done with the match now, but I want you to know that you, sir, have my respect. The same cannot be said for our match judge, a man who, for a short time, showed some improvement. For a while, it really seemed as though he was starting to get it. But sure enough, as time went on, the Creamo inside of him began to rear its ugly head again. Such a shame because now I have to waste my time with it. Now, with Sponsor Wars over, I am free to pursue other endeavors. I was planning to put Stoner Boy aside and sail off into the sunset, but now that isn't going to happen. Now I am making it my personal mission to fucking end you. I'm not going to New England Creamo wrestling. I'm going to end Creamo himself. Once and for all, I'm going to remove the stain that has ruined Federation X for far too long. I'm going to fucking destroy you. But please don't think of this as me echoing what Kansas Kid has said, because I'm not joking. I'm completely fucking serious. Now, before you start on some self-promotion bullshit like, look how much I'm generating so much heat, all of the big names want a piece of me. I'm a heat machine that you used to harp on about on MSN. This is nothing like that. I'm not trying to start heat. I'm putting the flame out, motherfucker. Also, for the record, you weren't generating heat with those guys. They were trying to shut you up. They were exposing you for the fucking talentless jobber that you are. And now I'm going to go one step further and expose your incompetency. I'm also going to expose, holy crap, this goes on. I'm also going to expose every piece of verbal shit that has and does spew out of your mouth. I will play dirty, and as far as I'm concerned, the rulebook can go suck a dick. Seriously, what are they going to do? Ban me? LOL. You can keep playing the victim, that's fine, because that's what you're going to be. This isn't Titus Fuchs that is fucking with you this time. Remember that? Remember how you turned a bunch of people against Titus while never divulging the things were going on backstage? Of course, Titus could have let everyone in on it, But he didn't. He just let it play out. He wanted to see what happened. He watched you manipulate people so you could, how did you say it? Hit them over the head when they least expected it. That was pretty much the conversation we had, right? Yes, Creamo, I'm going to expose everything. I'm going to show people just how deep the cancer goes. I'm declaring open season on Creamo. And there isn't a level I won't go to see you gone. I will not rest, and there will be no smiley fucking faces. Sound familiar?
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
How'd you get
Titus
to
Fuchs
that?
blow up King.
Sorry?
Titus Fuchs blow up King. King of the blow up.
How did you get to that point?
I don't know. It sort of got gradual as the match was going on, which was kind of why I got so pissed off that it got deleted, because the reasons were like, oh, it's completely OC, and yet the entire match was out of character. The entire match was based on me and Drew ripping the shit out of Creamo's judging criteria. Like, and it was the post before Dice had put something in his post about a conversation he had with Creamo on MSN. And I was going to respond with like a one-line thing, you know, because I know it pisses him off. I was just going to respond with a one-liner and leave it at that. But I wrote that one-liner and it just didn't stop. I just kept typing, and all this stuff that had happened before just started getting vented, and all the stuff he'd said before, I just, you know, it just went out on the keyboard. And yeah, and then I clicked post, and that was that.
So you didn't expect that to be taken down?
No, I didn't. I mean, yeah, I've seen some other shit that didn't get taken down that probably should have done. I mean, yeah, understand it was probably not the greatest thing to put in the middle of a match, but, you know, fucking leave it there anyway. I mean, it got people talking, did it not? You know, so why the hell not? And it was going to go somewhere. Like, you know, I was actually going to fucking end Creamo, and it would have led somewhere, but as soon as it got deleted, all of my heat just got killed instantly, and so, yeah, I just retired then.
So you're saying that the reason we still have Creamo is because of Mandy?
Yeah. I think Mandy actually brought Creamo into the game, actually. I could be wrong, but I think Mandy brought Creamo into the game. Anyway, so yeah.
In the rant, you mentioned something about Creamo being manipulative backstage. What were you alluding to?
It was I'd just taken a 2-week break from show. I needed 2 weeks off, and I left him in charge. He was like my assistant commissioner at the time, and I left him in charge. And when I came back, he was running this angle where he was trying to wrestle the power from Titus. So I thought, you know, this will be a really good idea if we turn this into an angle, like, and it worked out with him getting an ECW as well. So we did that. You know, I came back, and for the angle, I changed the card he booked. Like, everything he booked, I completely changed it.
I remember that.
Yeah, like, just changed everything about it to suit Titus instead of Jay Scott. And some people took it legit, and I was okay with that, you know, fine, cool. And people went over to NECW with him, and then I started to find out people were like really pissed at me because they you know, they really believed I was that much of a dick, that I'd just, you know, leave him with my fed for 2 weeks and then come back and fire him, you know, in real life. You know, I'm not that sort of person.
Well, hold on. Just to be clear, we're not saying that you're not a dick.
Well, no, I am a bit of a dick. The thing that really pissed me off was when I was speaking to someone on MSN and they said, you know, Mountain's really pissed at you, like he's really really pissed off. And I asked why, and he says because of the stuff with Creamo, and I was like, oh, that's an angle, blah blah blah. And he says, oh well, that's weird because I heard that off Jay Scott, like, you know, like all this stuff about Mountain hating me, and he'd heard it off Jay Scott, so which I thought was weird. Like, why would he, you know, like why would he? Can't think of the word. Why would he? Why would he fan the flames if he knew it was an angle? Why would he actually make someone like Mountain like really pissed at me and believe like it was really happening? And so I asked Creamo about it on MSN. I just brought up a message and I says, you know, what's this thing about Mountain being pissed off with me? And he you know, he played dumb. He was like, oh, what? I don't even know what you're talking about, man. No, he's not said anything to me and stuff like that. And that really fucking pissed me off. It's like, yeah, why would you do that, you fucking dick? Basically. That really annoyed me. He was manipulating people to make him think he was the victim and stuff like that. And shows started to suffer, but then it got better when people realised it was a work. But yeah, he tried to milk that as much as he could, and it really annoyed me. There was a line I think that shouldn't have been crossed. It's cool if people think it's, you know, a little bit legit, but when they really really start believing like that, then that's going to hurt the game in the end, because show would have probably suffered if everyone believed that, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You don't want them actually thinking that the angle is the fact, because it damages your reputation and the effort you put in.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Although a little white heat never killed anybody, right, Jordan?
Not at all. I'm the king of white heat.
I think I still tell this story. My favorite white heat of all time was that when we first started playing, Frank, who plays Rev, and I were in the same Fed, and I had both Ed and Hawk in that Fed and C-Slam, just, you know, the random draw. They used to put you in random Feds. And he and I, as Hawk, ran my first big angle and really got along. And one day he opened up and told me how much he hated Ed and couldn't stand the guy who wrote him and what a dick he was. And when I finally told him it was me, he was so pissed at me. That's my favorite white heat ever.
Jason, you got anything else for our guest?
I got to say one thing, Chris. I think even if you read your rant out loud, it would still seem like a polite rant with your accent and all.
Oh, God.
Oh, we can always count on Jason for the good one. Oh, that's good.
I would be like, I want to be a victim of one of these rants. It sounds just so nice.
It would be very comfortable, you know.
Definitely.
I used to travel with a British businessman, a gentleman from Manchester, and he was my boss in the company. And he used to fight with the representative from the U.S. office all the time, and he would ream the guy out and swear at him and get angry and say all this stuff. And I kid you not, I think the American actually was more concerned that he might actually have upset him. Like, it never occurred to him, if I had spoken to him that way, we'd have been fighting. But I think he just looked at the British guy and was like, are you mad at me? It's the accent. It must be.
Must be. Jason, if you don't have anything else, do you want to just ask Chris if he has any final thoughts?
Well, now that you said that, Chris, I was thinking, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, what the fuck's Rude doing here? Honestly, no. I think Alan Scott should stop being a fag and come back.
Yeah, I will when you do.
Right. Yeah,
I think you
other
could
than
have
that-
ended that sentence with Alan Scott could stop being a fag.
Nice setup.
Impossible.
Can't happen. All right. Well, then we'll thank you for staying up so late at night to do this with us, Chris. We really appreciate you joining us, and we were really glad to have you on. And maybe as we're getting close to your return, we will do it again.
Oh, yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right. Terrific. Thanks, Chris.
See you later, guys.
See ya. All right, guys.
What a polite guy.
Okay, so Jason, I'm sorry for cutting you off there. Just I didn't want him to be up any longer than he had to be since he was doing this for us.
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm just being stupid.
Okay, just checking. Didn't want you to think I was some kind of controlling asshole.
No, we already have one.
Okay,
Just kidding, Jeff.
No, he's a micromanaging asshole.
That's right. I think Nazi was the appropriate term, wasn't it?
Look, I never used that term.
Oh, do you want to bet?
Oh, yeah, I did, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
No, I said you were Nazi-like. I didn't call you directly a Nazi.
Yeah, whatever. Find your little out clause.
And I did say hair Jeff or something like that.
Yeah, something to that effect.
You were so butthurt.
Let's.
Miller wants to get in.
Is he on?
Yes.
Hold on, and I will add him, and we'll bring Miller back into the show. We didn't think we were going to have him join us tonight, folks. So.
Yes, his mother-in-law's still alive and kicking.
All right. It's calling him in right now, so let's get him on.
Okay.
We'll need him to answer, of course. That'll be step one.
Yeah, I just told him.
And then once we get him on, let's go straight into our top 5 because that's right where we're at. Let's have that conversation.
Wait, we're not doing the introduction? I'm confused.
Yeah, let's Miller, you with us now?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've just wrapped up with Titus. So we're just going to keep plowing ahead. And now that you're with us, we're right at the point where we want to talk about our top 5s. And since you're joining us at this point, let's put you on the spot. This week's topic, obviously, commissioners. So our top 5 is the 5 best commissioners you've played under or worked with, and obviously why. Who have you got on your list?
Well, first of all, before I get to that, I'd just like to wish you a happy Australia Day.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a great day to be Australian.
That's great. Okay, well, first I'll start off with number 5, the head. That is actually a Strife's commissioner character.
Oh, I didn't know him.
Yeah, I didn't. The only reason he's number 5 is I didn't really get to work with him for a really long time. But from what I saw, he was top notch, just like he is a player. So, Strife as a commish, imagine that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Number 4 is actually my very first commissioner, the Don. I'm sure none of you guys have heard of him.
That's the C-Slam guy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember him.
Yeah, he was my very first commissioner. He was a big guy that kind of helped transition us away from just troll smack talk into actual let's RP and have wrestling matches.
You miss trolling and smack talk, though, don't you?
Well, I mean, you can still do that, but without the outline of the game to focus you, it's kind of just a message board.
True.
And he innovated a lot of stuff like title matches, tag team matches, having a weekly card, stuff that we couldn't really run without at this point,
Right.
For some reason, Miller, when you're describing this, I feel like there should be ragtime playing and a bunch of title cards and shit. Back in the old days.
Can we maybe do a ICQ podcast one day?
Yeah, we'll see about that. Eh? Remember that?
Oh!
I hated that noise.
Okay, number 3 on my list is Lars.
Good.
More so from the experience in CCW. He was a long-time great commish. He and I had some problems. We can talk. We're planning on talking about commissioner problems later, so we can get into that. But still, high on my list. Click, click. Number 2, Maverick.
Also a good choice.
Yeah, great long-time commish. Feds are always active. He is a guy that didn't mind getting his hands dirty, coming up with angles. Sometimes I'd make fun of them, call them Maverick family who gives a clusterfuck. But still a great commish. Always pushed me. It's important in my book.
It is important to you, I know.
Number 1, Cedric Caesar. No, I'm just playing.
That would have been hilarious.
If I was just going on guys that pushed me, he would be number 1.
Yeah, no kidding.
Number 1, Grayson.
Wow.
Yeah, even though I haven't worked with you as a pure commissioner role, you've definitely been the commissioner of the power base, the commissioner of FedEx, the guy that's always been there, except, when some douchebag fires you.
I saw that. Just so everybody knows, that's not something we worked out together. He just decided that's how it was going down.
That's how my angles go. I didn't tell Excess I was ending the streak on New Year's.
It's true. That was such a terrible play, too. We had to then sell that whole feud after that, remember? You two weren't speaking to each other, but we were all still in the network.
Yeah, but how it was a great feud because we couldn't really go at each other. He had to resort to stuff like having sex with my beanbag chair and
while you were in it.
No,
that was Benny, wasn't it?
That was Benny.
That's
Excess called him and gave him the idea though.
Oh gosh.
And that's my top 5.
That's awesome. Who wants to go next? Jason or Jordan?
I don't care.
I'll go.
All right.
I have a few of the same as Gino on this, but I'll start off anyway. 5th would be Lars. I worked under Lars a few times, obviously here in FedEx. He was actually one of my first commissions in Wrassle, not named Maverick. besides my first stint, and Lars will attest to me still complaining to this day of him warning me over OOC content in my title, because he must have been, his wife must have chewed his ass off or something that day, because my title to a post that I was writing for a match was basically, and more match action continues. And he did not
for that.
And he gave me crap for that. But otherwise, Lars was always a solid commission in my eyes. Number 4, another one, much like Gino, the Head. I worked with Head. He was one of my second or third commish back in the UCE when I used to run with Clarence T. And back when I was tag teaming with Philly Fats a lot. And he came up with some quality angles. I think he commissioned basically out of the Dr. Keebler school. It was definitely along the same lines, but he would always come up with something fresh. If he saw a character struggling with their role play, he would know exactly when and where to jump in and to get this character somewhat motivated. And the next thing you know, the activity would spike for the guy, and a week or two later, he's fighting in a somewhat important title match or a feud match. Which leads me to number 3, which is Dr. Keebler. I only worked under him very briefly, but every time I would read the UCE boards when he was a commish, that was a guy who knew his roster as well as anyone, and a guy that got the most out of a mostly comedic roster from most of the time that I saw.
And did that suit him? I don't know Keebs as a commissioner, but I really like some of the ideas I've seen from him over the years in other areas. He seems like the kind of guy that I would really like to have played for, but I did see a trend towards him being very popular with guys who did comedic things. Was that his genre, or was he just adjusting?
He'd been doing that since C-Slam, actually.
Mm-hmm.
He's a wrestling midget,
right?
Evil scientist.
Right. He had a whole stable, like some sort of carnival type situation with a clown character and a fat lady character and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I found out actually, I'm gonna say it's about 4 or 5 years ago, that one of my first ever C-Slam character that I had a month-long feud with one of Keebler's guys in some shitty regional. And when I found out, I was pretty stunned, because I was like, wow, you actually played a somewhat serious guy for a while. And he had told me that it wasn't one of his favorites, of course.
Right.
Speaking of Keebler, a couple of years ago, he put up this link to a website he had made with like every post he had written for all of his characters. And
Oh,
one of
wow.
the characters I thought was really interesting was this character called Fake Tobacco. He was a serious character, but his whole deal was convincing people to smoke and why smoking was a great idea. And he was very underhanded. He was very like sleazy. I mean, I remember one of his matches, he convinced a kid to smoke and was handing him like a carton of cigarettes. And like that was his whole deal. It was very interesting just to see that in some of his other characters he ran.
Wow.
All right.
So
So
that's
I'll go to number 2 just to move it along. Maverick. Maverick easily in when XS was hitting his prime. I'm going to say coincidentally when Gino started fading out through your 3 or 4 year absence. I moved to I think it was CWA with Mav, and
But
that's where I really started getting him more as a commission. Like Gino said, he had some great fed wide angles. There were some bad ones also. There was, we all went through the time of emo Mav.
okay. Well, hold on. Don't go too
I
into
missed
that,
that.
because
Okay.
Jordan is arranging for Eric to come on hopefully next week.
Oh,
And,
good. So we can touch on it then.
We want to talk about role-playing commissioners next week because I figured it fit better on a show where we had Eric on, and it would lead to all kinds of things that I'm sure will get Eric pissed at me.
Of course.
we need sound effects for the snoring. We need to be able to implement that next week.
Yeah, hopefully the new software can handle it.
Let's see. What
Where's
we can
my
do.
Dr. Pepper?
I'm telling you, our intro video before we started the podcast should be him getting choked out with like a title card to introduce us. Great.
So anyway, Mav was one of my all-time favorites. I always felt a fed with him was always a strong fed.
Absolutely.
And my favorite commission of all time was somebody from Wrassle, Desperado, who also played Sick Boy. He created something called the Desperado Invitational Tournament, where it was I don't remember exactly what the basis of it was, but it was a 2 or 3 day role-playing tournament. And in this tournament, he got Strife and Fats to post. Oh, God, I'm going to say it was over 50 times in 3 days.
What?
Yes, the activity level for this tournament was ridiculous.
We're lucky if we can get that out of Strife in a year.
Tell
What
me
made
about it.
What made the
confused.
tournament so significant?
It was a huge bragging right for UC. It started in DRW, then it went to UCE. It was big time bragging rights. I think you got a title shot out of it or something. This is a long time ago, so my mind's shot. So don't ask me the details. But I do remember it being the whole Fed was really competitive with it. I don't remember if it was a sort of a blitz or if it was that included with the role play, but it was a lot of fun. And go ahead, Gina.
I'm confused. I thought Johnny Root invented role-playing tournaments. Because this guy invented a role-playing tournament? Hold on. No, go on. I'm sorry.
Nice troll.
Good job.
But and he was another one that knew his Fed well. He learned a lot from his early days in DRW, where he had to deal with the likes of Holy Evil and all them when they were. Jordan, what was the group that they not obviously not AOD? They were.
We were the evil empire.
Yes, and they kept trying to kill him, right?
No. Every member of the group was a different character. Like we had King Koopa, Megatron, all that stuff, and we killed other wrestlers in the game. So when someone would feud with us, Benny Blair would turn into a gun and just shoot him.
Oh, Benny.
And I was Mr. Burns, so I just sicked hounds on people. It was great.
Oh, wow. All right,
Yeah.
Jordan, your list is up.
All right. Well, number 1 has to be Chevalier. Absolutely Chevalier. There are a few people I can think of that can inspire and motivate people quite like Chevalier. His booking was spot on. His judging was immaculate. Chevalier, number 1.
Is he saying that name right? I don't think he is.
No, but I think
I feel like he isn't.
he's trolling him anyway, so who cares?
Number 2 has to be a guy by the name of Max Payne. He was commissioner of TWF and of NGBW for a time. My favorite moment with him was shortly after me and Homoshi had come back. We were coming back for a long absence. We were in his regional, and we had gotten the call up to NGBW. Well, we decided not to tell Max that we were going. We just said, fuck it, we're going to leave. Max proceeded to send us like 6 messages over the course of several days, and this was before the Christmas break and afterwards, where he's like, why haven't you guys come back yet? Where are you? I sent you these contracts. Are you guys still not back from your vacation yet? It was amazing because we just continued ignoring his stuff and continued role-playing in NGW. While we were posting on the board, he was wondering when we were coming back.
He never bothered to look?
Dude, this guy, when it was time to do contracts, he put up like a thread to say, hey, it's contract time, just to remind people. He posted it 12 times on the OC board. Which leads me to believe that his browser froze and he just kept hitting the button.
Jordan, isn't he the commish whose daughter died in real life? Some of us happen to make fun of it in posts going forward.
Oh, that's wrong.
Not me, of course. I'm too sweet of an angel for that, but I definitely remember.
That was him. He also went ahead and built a Ginger Immortality Memorial statue in the NGBW for a while. Because
in honor of his dead daughter?
No, like they're not related. He just had one there because Psychotic Goodness was retiring, and he honored them by building a statue of them in front of the arena. I'm not sure who blew it up.
Well, we should honor whoever blew it up.
Exactly, because really, Ginger Mortality. Okay, after him, I'll have to say that... I just lost my train of thought. 1 second. Right, yeah. So Haley Williams. Haley Williams ran the UWF when it was Adam Draven's trainee, eventually became a commissioner. And me and Adam Draven had our match in the OWC there. And it was Haley Williams that put Adam Draven over me by 0.1 in the OWC.
What? Let's spend some time talking about you losing to Draven in a role-play match.
All right. Actually, I can talk about that match. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. I don't... I mean, you're still alive, so clearly suicide wasn't an option. How did you deal with it?
Well, if you remember, the next day when I got the result, I did a post. This is back when Rude and Alan Scott were friends. Rude came over and hung out with Alan and just sulked and was really depressed and said, yep. He was like sitting there drinking beer in the post. He's like, yep, I lost Adam Draven. And Alan he didn't say much. He's like, man, that kind of sucks. He's like, yep. But as far as the match itself goes, we were having some sort of thing where like we started in the wilds of Australia. I don't know why everyone thinks fighting in the wilds of Australia is so fucking original, but it's really not. It's really dull. And we had to fight our way to like a ring or something. This is what it turned out to be. And the first half of the match, I ran the story and I felt like I was controlling things. And Adam Draven just pretty much just was shooting things down instead of like running with something. He just go, well, this isn't working because of this. And then halfway through, I was talking to Jeff about the match and how I wasn't very inspired. And he said I should find the dead body of Steve Irwin and have sex with it.
It does sound like something I might have said.
So not only did I do this, but I had Rude decide that he was tired of the wilderness and he kind of went a little crazy in the middle of the match. So he stripped naked and started carrying Steve Irwin around with him everywhere he went in the middle of the match. Adam Draven saw this and shot the dead body of Steve Irwin in the head to try and get me to kill the angle. Instead of doing that, I attached a rock to its head and kept running with it, and I did like a meanwhile panel thing where like the leader of Australia watched Adam Draven shoot Steve Irwin in the head and assumed he was a national terrorist for destroying such an important icon. And then from there on, it was just insane comedy where like Australian feds were chasing Adam Draven down, and Rude was naked and locked in the back of Adam Draven's truck.
Australian.
Yeah,
get it straight. It's Australian.
Australian, right. And I think at the end of it, the dead body of Steve Irwin was in like the pouch of a kangaroo. Can't remember all of it, but we decided to go even because he was my friend, and I didn't want to go ahead and bury him in post, even though I could. And I thought, well, this match is done. I'm going to spend the rest of the night drinking. So I did. So when I found out that I lost, I was hungover at the time. It was not a good day.
All right, so let's get back to your list. That was a good story.
Right. Okay. So number 3 is Forever Tipsies. That needs to be a GIF. Anyway, Cedric Caesar is number 3. or as I like to call him, the little commissioner that couldn't. I'll give him the credit for being able to draw in all of the big names in the universe, including Silencer, to his Fed, although I have to wonder how much of that was pity. And no one could kiss the ass of stars like he could. I went in there my first month, asked for a King of Karma shot just to see what he would do. I got it, won it, faced Ryan Scott and beat him, asked for a world tag title shot just to see if he'd say yes. He gave it to me, and all the while was playing weak, lame, face rude. And I left in GW with the King of Karma title and the tag titles and the T3 that I won with someone called Cahoon in the space of a month. And I wouldn't be able to do that without Cedric Caesar.
That's nothing. I got his password.
Oh, that was you?
Yeah. I didn't give it to anybody. He gave it to Storm, I think, too.
He did, and Storm
Right.
used it.
I thought he'd give it to everybody.
I think
I
at
don't
that
know.
point he might
Who
have.
else had his password? I don't.
Who else wanted it? Really?
Well,
Who
it
else
was
cares?
to go read the commission for it. I guess it wasn't that exciting, but
Right. So after that, I'll have to give it to Dead Star.
Hey, I love Dead Star.
Well, I'm about to talk about Death Star. If it wasn't for Death Star being so incompetent and incapable of running his Fed, there would never have been a demand for me to rise to the occasion and actually be something instead of just an inactive fuckhole. Interestingly enough, when I was in CWA with you, Jeff, and Mav and a bunch of Blood Brothers, Dead Star immediately saw me and wanted me to join his Fed. And shortly after that, Chevalier sent me a similar request. So I went ahead and looked at the talent of both Feds. I'm like, well, MGW seems a little stronger. I'll go there. And to Dead Star's credit, I told him I wasn't ready to go right now, but if I ever did, I'd ask him. Months down the road, when I was sick of MGW and I needed to change a pace, I contacted him, and true to his word, he had brought me over. Even though I gave him the runaround, I will give him credit that he kept his word. So there's that, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah. Plus, he's the best CIT trainer ever. You don't think so?
Can,
Another thing about Dead Star. He judged my ballroom brawl match against Royal Ryan Scott, and in this judging the write-up, he said, while Johnny Root's rewrite was technically the better rewrite, Royal Ryan Scott's rewrite entertained me more, so he wins.
That's almost Max versus Kitty.
Almost.
I can see it with Max versus Kitty though. It's great writing that sucks.
Sure does.
Except that actual write-up was basically here's all the areas that Kitty won, and it was all the things he said he was judging on. But I've always been a mark for Max Entropy, so he wins. That was basically what was written. It was pretty terrible.
And now we've had to deal with the paranoid bitch ever since.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And the last one, number 5, would be Sanity Clause. I've been in 2 of his Feds, actually. The first one, he was running in Indy after the previous commissioner had committed suicide in real life, so he took it over. And I have never seen a more suspension-happy commissioner than Sanity Clause.
Oh yeah, I was victimized quite a few times.
He had a set rule set, and if you broke it, there were no warnings with Sanity Clause. He just fucking ended you. And I know this is probably he was a dick. Now I know this is probably a shock to no one, but in CCW he ran a character called Anal Cowboy. And his whole gimmick obviously was just to have sex with a bunch of dudes. And Eric went to the CCW with one of his characters for a while, and they became a tag team.
Obviously.
Of course.
So to let you guys know, Jake Price teamed with a guy named Anal Cowboy.
Oh, Jake.
So yes, Sandy Claus, number 1 for being the hardest of the hard asses.
Let's just say that was an excellent troll list. That was good work.
He forgot Hawthorne.
So he's on my troll list. He's number one on my troll list. I'll give you guys a quick rundown on mine. Number 5 for me would be I mean, before I go through everybody, I guess I should say it would be really easy for me to just rhyme off people I've worked with and fill it up with people who spent time on the power base and actually were really good at what they did. And I could name guys that we have otherwise thrown under the bus on this show, like Crusher, who, when he spent his time running the events program for Federation X, was actually really, really good at it. Or I could say Gino, who, quite frankly, every time we let him run with an angle, turns it into a massive douchebag move. But he gets people to dial in, love it or hate it, and get active on the issue. And has always been a backbone since he's been involved, and has always been a free thinker with what if we try this or what if we try that. So getting that out of the way, I didn't really dig into a lot of power base members. I really looked at guys I'd worked with or for, kind of outside of that. So my number 5 would be a guy from CSLAM who was my first commissioner, who for about the first 2 months I played was really quite active. His commissioner handle was the Atomic Zimzum. His biggest strength was in my favor was that he was pretty open to, as I learned how to play, letting me kind of run some angles and some things that I'm not sure other commissioners would have let me run. And then, sending me emails and PMs saying, read some more of this guy's stuff. You can get better in this area, which for me was good. I mean, he took the time to point it out to me and say, here's where you can improve, and give me an opportunity to improve, which I thought was excellent. I moved quickly in C-Slam out of there. I went to work for Lars very early on, and Tim will always hold a pretty high spot on my list. My time with him in C-Slam was outstanding. He was one of the most dedicated commissioners back in those days. And obviously, he makes the list just from being a founding commissioner for Federation X way back when it very first got put together. So he's on my list, obviously, and we'll say it at number 3. I skipped over somebody because I can't remember what the right name for him was. CEW commissioner, was it Mystic? Does anybody remember?
Myth? I think it was Myth.
Myth. That's who it was. It was Myth. And I had Myth for a long time with alts that I made sure nobody knew was me. And I enjoyed that time.
So you like alts that nobody knows is you, huh?
I did back then, because back then I was running around.
I was about to say something about
that. I was running around with like 5 or 6 guys at that point, and I was getting promoted every time I popped up with a guy that somebody knew. And I went and played there and really kept, I think it was long shot I played at the time. It kept it under my belt that I was playing long shot, and really got into a good group with a couple of other players. And Myth was, one of those guys who didn't know me at all, but saw what I was writing and really responded to the work that I did, which I appreciated. And he did some great booking, which I really, he certainly was more creative with his booking at that point than Zimzum, who was basically all that I had seen.
Jeff, real quick.
Yeah.
You said 6 characters. Is that one time?
Yeah. How
did you ever get married and have sex with 6 characters?
I'm pretty sure that was the point in time where my wife was pretty pregnant and we weren't having sex. So, and it didn't last for very long. I mean,
so you're hiding from the crazy pregnant lady.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Were you paying the $10 a month per alt that you used to have to pay? I used to have to send in checks to the slammer.
No, I don't think I had to pay for my alts, but I had to pay if I wanted to put them into a specific fed. I can remember that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. If I wanted to transfer feds on my own and not wait for somebody to call me up, I had to pay. And I think I did pay that once, but only once, where I just wanted out of the fed that I was in pretty badly. So yeah, and then Lars comes in for me at number 3. For me, number 2. It's kind of a toss-up. I guess for number 2 for me is kind of would be a pretty big surprise to everybody. But when we walked away and left left Federation X, and the originals just kind of took a break. Eric took over with Crazy Ivan, who was, I think, playing Danny at the time, right?
Wait. Which Eric? Is there a third Eric now?
No, your brother.
Your brother.
Oh.
I was there. That was
Yeah.
my first time in FedEx, pretty much.
Wait, he didn't run Danny. Chuck did.
No, that's what I said. There wasn't it Crazy Ivan that was Chuck? Am I
Yes.
mistaken? Yeah. No,
Yeah. Okay.
So the two of them took over, and while I wouldn't have given Chuck the time of day. I think in a really tough situation and following a really tough act to follow. I think your brother did a very good job of at least holding to the standards and trying to move the Fed forward and not just tread water or hold on. When Tim and myself and Bruce left, so for that effort alone, he makes my list at number 2, and for me at number 1 is Maverick. One of the few guys that when I wasn't running a Fed, I would search out in hopes that they would be running a Fed that I could play in. I did like the fact that he was a role-playing commissioner, which is something we'll obviously talk about. I like the fact that he knew how to sense a guy that was going to draw the heat and put them in a position to do that. And I like that he moved stories and angles forward and made it clear to people that those stories and angles were important in the Fed. A couple of times, as we've all noted, they ended up being stories and angles that I wish he had buried instead of pushing. But for the most part, that's the price of having a guy who does that all the time. So he's my number 1.
Makes
Good
sense.
list.
You mentioned Eric as a commissioner. I wanted to know, should I tell the story about the X Factor scramble?
I don't remember the story, so sure, go ahead.
Okay. So something happened and we needed an event that followed the Crazy 8. Me and Mike were on events at the time, and we didn't know what to come up with. Well, Eric came to us and came up with the idea for the X Factor Scramble, which was basically an elimination chamber type setup where like all the wrestlers would be in pods, and every so often you'd get another wrestler in the match, and whoever got to the top and got the title won. Well, as we were hashing out the details for it, Eric's initial idea is that he wanted the X Factor match to be all RP. Okay.
Oh, I do remember that.
Oh, you remember this now? Are you getting it, huh? Well,
Remember you being extremely angry about it.
No, check it out. I stepped up and I said, no, absolutely not. We can't do it this way because the X Factor title is a half sim belt. We have to include half sim in the half sim belt. And he said if we do that, people who aren't as strong on the sim won't have a chance to win it because we were planning to hype it up all month and have qualifiers and things like that. And I said, well, if they're not strong enough on the sim, that means they're not posting as much, so they don't deserve a shot at the top belt. And like the thing escalated on and on and on. Eventually, as I stuck my ground and said, no, it has to be done this way because this is the X Factor title, not the Superstar, he said that I was a bigger dick than you, Jeff.
Oh my!
And we fought about it on Messenger, and then because we were roommates at the time, because it was a three-way talk when Mike was there, and he was kind of just being the middleman while Eric and I argued. Eric then proceeded to argue with me, outside of the game about it, and I just stood my ground. And he said I was a bigger dick than you, Jeff.
Did I not tell you that was a compliment and you should thank him for it?
Dude, the next day you had a status in your picture saying "is really proud of Rude," and
See?
and I toyed with the idea of making a communist belt for everyone. Like it was going to be called the communist belt for everyone, and everybody's the champion at one time. But I thought if I did that, Eric would kill me in my sleep. So I decided to stop there. But yeah.
Now, could you not have just made sure that he couldn't get his wheelchair into your room?
I guess.
That was for Price. I hope he enjoyed it.
I certainly did.
Hope he can murder better than he types.
Oh,
Hold on. He murders the
everybody's
English
putting his
language
typing on
all the
blast.
time.
Everybody's blasting him pretty bad since he came back for his typing. I think Austin James and Falcon have said shit about it, and he hasn't, complained about it at all. So he's just kind of not even affected.
No, he's rolling with it, and good for him. I mean, at this point in time, he's been blasted about it by, bigger players than them, right?
Yeah, he doesn't even phase him anymore. He's like, is that it?
Would it? Why would it? All right, Jason, let's hit Ask Excess. Have you got some stuff handy for us?
Oh, I definitely do. We have some great questions that came in this week, I have to say. Let's start off with someone. He did not give where he's from, but I do know he's from somewhere in central United States. He goes by the nickname of Tubbalard. And he wanted to know, why does Johnny Rude talk like someone is twisting his sack all the time? That would obviously be Rude, somebody who you put on blast last week from Carnage. So, but I don't think we need to even answer that question because we all enjoy Rude's voice.
That's right.
Turns all of you on.
Wrong.
Right. Anyway, here's one from up by your parts, Jeff. This is from BlueJaysFan@hotmail.com. Dear Johnny, I currently have a secret alt. I'm telling all my friends that it's not me, but I think they're starting to catch on. So, first question I have is, how long can I keep this act up? And second is, does Jesus consider secret alts lying?
You guys are great. This is so entertaining right now. Oh, who wrote that one? Was that you or Miller?
It was Miller.
Yeah, that's me.
I actually copied it word for word. I thought it was brilliant.
Good work, guys. Good work. Oh, that's good.
Speaking of Miller, this one's from
Hold on,
@MillerTimeBaby at Twitter.
Miller, you need to be nicer. We gave you your first baseman.
Yeah, that's true. Australian first baseman.
You got it.
Joey Votto.
Great. All right, go ahead. Sorry, Jason.
No problem. This is from MillerTimeBaby. That's his Twitter handle. I wonder who that could be. Is it okay for my wife to call me a raging homo for podcasting about a fake wrestling roleplay game instead of me making sweet love to that cock-hungry woman?
Wow. You
I
what?
would say you got to go with the gay. Keep the gay in the relationship. Forget sex. Sex is overrated. Podcasting about fake wrestling with a bunch of guys you never met, way more cool.
Well, I knew we'd be having another podcast in the next 7 days, but I wasn't sure I'd be having sex again in the next 7 days.
Well, you won't be if she hears a podcast.
I don't think she has that kind of patience.
We'll send her a link along with specific times to forward.
Timestamp that shit.
She was pretty horrified with some of the Tipsy stories and the Holland
I
stories.
freaking love that you told her that.
She just stared at me, and I defended myself on the Tipsy's Draven stuff. I said, well, it wasn't like it was a regular ass rape. It was like a prison ass rape. And she just stared at me dumbfounded. She goes, did you just say it wasn't a regular rape? I was like, well, I mean, if he was in prison, he obviously was a criminal. I think there should be more prison rapes. It would be a deterrent to crime.
You bring up a really good point. Because there are different levels of rape. There's rape. There's rapity rape, which is like, regular rape, I would, probably a minority finds a nice young white woman and rapes her and beats her, on the street. Then there's date rape, which isn't so severe. It's more like, bitch should have said yes.
It's like a really exciting nap.
Statutory rape, which isn't anything to you, right?
Yeah, it's not even really rape.
We're so going to get into that conversation one night.
Okay, back to the questions. I have one here. I don't know who it's from, but this is one that I think somebody here will recognize. Dear Johnny, sometimes when I see wrestlers on TV, I think of guys from our game. Does that ever happen to you? So, as I read this question the other day, I happened to be taking a shit. So, who came waddling through my mind? Good old Mountain.
Oh,
And his heel.
And then one last question. This one is from the best there is. He asked me. Somebody told me Jake Price made a return, Johnny. My question is, should anyone care? And my answer to you, Aller, is I'm not sure anybody even noticed to care.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing those with us, Johnny. We look forward to it every week. All right, guys. As we get close to the end, we've got a second topic about commissioners, and I think most of the guys on here, whether it's from time with the power base or whether it was time when they were actually being a commissioner, can give us some thoughts on this. Let's take a look at it from the commissioner side and share something that the players can maybe learn from. Guys, what's the hardest part about being a commissioner or being on the power base or being in one of those roles of authority / administration?
Okay.
Listening to stupid complaints without telling the complainant how stupid they are, I have a big problem with that.
You want to give us an example?
The whole boner gate. I was in charge of Empire at that time, which I think drove me away from the commissioner game forever. But just the fact that they lit some of the dumbest stuff drive them crazy. And I understand Craven Boners, as they called him. He was still new to the game. I'll give him a pass. But a lot more people than that complained about it, whined. I've judged a kitty match in which I had to deal with explaining to her why never getting to the ring and running around backstage looking for your red boots is not action.
That's fair.
Holy Evil had a dream and had his character dream about match action. That's how match action starved this match was. Holy Evil.
Wow. That's pretty bad. What about you, Jordan? You've been through some of that, just dealing with events and some of the other things in FedEx. What's the challenge that you don't think that the players who haven't done it appreciate?
Well, one of the challenges for me is that when I was running, I was helping out Crusher with the events before I became a booker. So I have kind of two separate things that I wanted to mention about that. But before I became a booker, I was just running events. One of the biggest problems I was having was not saying exactly what I thought and having to figure out how to say it in a way that wouldn't make someone cry. Because 90% of the people that came to talk to me would complain about this or complain about this problem that they had with another person, or my personal favorite with Kira Stonewall, why does no one want to role play with me? And so Kira would come in with all these different, complaints and bitches and what have you. And finally one night, after sitting there and trying to tiptoe through the tulips and trying to explain what Kira was doing wrong, I just fucking lost my shit and said, look, asshole, this is why you're doing wrong. This is why no one wants to roleplay you. You do stupid shit. You complain all the time. I just ran this whole list. And by the time I was done, I stopped. And I looked back when I said, oh shit, he's going to go to Jeff and Jeff's going to jump my ass for being a dick to a player. And then there was like this long pause and I'm freaking out. I'm like, holy fuck, he's probably writing that shit right now. And finally he starts typing and I'm waiting, I'm watching. And he goes, thank you, man. I needed to hear that.
You can never be sure how they're going to react.
And I went, well, I'm sorry, man. I just had to tell you like it is. And he's like, yeah, I get that, man. Thank you. Man, I thought that it was going to fucking go a totally different way. But it was challenging to do events, mainly because we were trying to work out a calendar. We were trying to come up with things that were interesting, that weren't rehashes. And we had a lot of people that wanted to take the events from us and say, no, it should be like this, and then there should be more role play. No, there should be more sim. Planning sponsor wars was a nightmare, even when we had the whole power base involved.
Yeah, I don't think that many players appreciate just how much work goes into it. They see one or two flaws with it, and they think you guys have all been lazy and sloppy.
No, event planning is a really difficult job that I don't think anybody really appreciates. I was so glad when I was moved to booking, because booking is a little easier in the sense that you don't have to worry about having the burden of the big events on your shoulders. You just have to worry about week-to-week cards. My problem with booking was that I was really disappointed when I'd come up with a really good match idea, and I'd hear from someone on the admin board, about how something about the match seemed dumb or they didn't take advantage of what I gave them.
Right.
To give an example of that, I remember I did a match with Gilgamesh and Battlestone it was, and because we were in Vegas, I decided to do like a gimmicky theme of like random luck, where a counter would come down and a person would come out of a pod, and whoever they came out with had didn't. It was somewhat complicated, but it was really interesting. It dealt with the whole luck thing, right? And the first thing I got was a message from Marlo talking about how he hated the gimmick and this, that, and the other, and it was during a Sponsor Wars month, so booking cards for that month is challenging because every match matters
Right.
way more than they would normally. But it wasn't all bad. Like booking actually was kind of fun sometimes because I actually got to help people make feuds by just taking people that were kind of directionless that I thought might work well together and putting them in a situation where something might come from that. So I mean, there are plus sides to it too, but people don't realize how much effort it takes to make these events and make these cards, and that's something I wish people would think about more. It's not just throwing people together in a match. It's making it interesting and making it making you want to post in it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Jason, I mean, my gut tells me you've been too lazy to ever care about this, but have you done anything that would allow you to have an opinion on this topic?
Boy, are you wrong, Jeff. Not only did I run the most successful federation in FedEx history, Empire, along with Gino and Hawthorne,
I'm pretty sure Hawthorne ran that. He ran it right into the ground. Go ahead.
but I was actually very much involved in sitting back and watching the Fed go by. So
that was the breakdown in communication because I was doing that too.
I know. I think the problem was I was expected to kind of be in the middle somewhere. I was supposed to do a little bit and let Gino do nothing. And I think I got it mistaken. I thought you said that I was going to do nothing and you were going to do a little bit. But
Maybe we should have alternated weeks on that.
I think would we have a 3-week run? But I actually was a commissioner.
Empire was the most posted and fed the week after I quit, so maybe Hawthorne was right about me.
Oh God.
You notice nobody jumped in to argue.
I did commission once back in Wrassle. I was a founding commissioner of the AWA. I started that Fed up. I'll tell you one thing. After 2 weeks, I hated commissioning. It was way too much going on. At the time, I was running. I think I was taking a break with XS, but I still was running with either both Haley and Clarence T or one of them. So it was very hard to split my time. So the booking was very difficult. I definitely did not read the entire boards, which I obviously should have, but I didn't have the time for it. Half of my bookings were done well. The other half were pretty much thrown together with no rhyme or reason. Results were probably the worst part of it. Having to read every match, having to give finishing rights. Back then, there were one or two role-playing matches, I believe, which were definitely not fun to judge. It was a big-time thankless job because, as Gino said, I still got the annoying questions from some of the newer guys to the game. I had a mix of vets and newer guys, so luckily the vets knew exactly what to expect. But I still got a shitload of stupid freaking questions. Some I ignored, some I actually answered. But I would probably never do it again.
Yeah.
I like the advising. I would always go in as an advisor on FedEx if opinions were needed or if there was help needed. But I would never say, "Hey, here's a good idea. Why don't we give me and so a Fed?"
Good
So
call.
wait, Price, Jason.
Yeah.
How many of your bookings were done from the toilet?
A good question. I could tell you results were sometimes done from the toilet. I would bring in a pad and I would start tallying up sim scores while I was taking a dump. Which was probably fitting as I was doing results because some of the roleplay was shit.
How many posts you get through on a typical BM?
Wow, that's a good one. Luckily, wrestle shorts were usually short back then, so I could breeze through 2 or 3 matches sometimes.
Before your leg started to fall asleep?
Oh God, I still get that. I tell you, my right leg, I'll step up out of the bathroom after being on my phone or laptop after a nice long dump, and I'll get into my bedroom, and all of a sudden I can't feel my leg. It's tough.
One day somebody's going to hand these tapes to your psychologist.
What does tipsies mean?
I think from my side of it, guys, one of the things that stands out that players don't appreciate is that when they bring us little things that in the truth don't matter at all, they don't appreciate that everybody brings us little things that players are burning commissioners out with things that don't matter. Showing up and griping that the booking for the card has, somebody fighting in a number 1 contenders match that you don't think should be in a number 1 contenders match is completely unnecessary. Or showing up and griping that your opponent dropped, 1 too many F-bombs in their match. Listen, commissioners have enough crap going on. It's enough of a drain on them. The fact that they have to read even the bad posts, it's unbelievable. And then you get, how many guys as commissioners stop logging into MSN because you just can't afford to be on MSN and have 4 hours tied up with guys whining.
Or better yet, people that contact you and tell you that they think your write-up was wrong because even though you had them win, you didn't tell them they dominated the other person.
Yeah. In general, being a commissioner sucks if kitties in your fed.
Oh, yeah.
It's a no-win situation. You won, but you didn't say I won by a lot. Unbelievable. You know what? If I ever have to judge Kitty versus Holly, I'm going to call it a draw.
Didn't Kitty think he should have beaten Air in Action with his 3 post Air in Action 6?
Oh, it was something like that. I don't know if it was 3-6, but 4-6 or 5-6. Who cares? Randy's a solid writer. I don't care how good you think you are. If he gets the extra bonus point and the extra post that we're judging, who are you kidding me that you think you had a 4 or a 5 or a 6 point lead? Get out of here. Especially not with Kitty's match action will show up in the way that I glare at somebody.
And that's action. It's intense.
Yeah, kiss my butt. Dan should learn to listen.
Well, that's not going to happen.
All right. Let's go into closing thoughts, closing arguments. Who's got one?
I do. Actually, it's more of a Canada question for you.
All right. It's Australia Day, so off you go.
All right. So, what do you think of the Quebecois?
Well, that's a loaded question. They're
And
not Australian.
And can you explain to those of us who are not Australian who and what they are?
Sure, I can. When Canada was being formed, we had Upper Canada and Lower Canada. Upper Canada is effectively Ontario, where the English settled, and Lower Canada is Quebec, where the French settled. Ultimately, it led to a war. The English won, and then it stupidly allowed the French to retain their culture and their rights as a distinct society. It's almost as dumb as America allowing a tiny little island off the coast of Florida to remain an independent nation all these years. And really, it's just led to a whole host of problems historically. The Quebec culture identity has led to all kinds of referendums and arguments, and they constantly want special treatment. And generally, once you get outside of Quebec, what you find out is that the rest of the country freaking hates them. As a collective, individually, or even as a place to visit, it can be great. But as a collective, it's like having a whole province full of snotty douchebags.
What do they do that's so
Not
bad?
the good kind either.
No, not the good kind of douchebag. Obviously, that would be awesome, and Australians would welcome that.
Well, what kind of stuff do they do that's so bad, though? Like,
Quebec has they do things that, in your vernacular would be unconstitutional. Quebec has a sign law. Effectively, the sign law says if you're a business in Quebec, the business name and sign out front has to be in French. And if you want to put up English, it can only be a certain percentage of the size that the French is. And it can't be on top. It has to be below it. I mean, if I'm an English business owner running an English business, and then I want to put my sign out front in English, and you think that Quebec people don't want that, well, won't the problem be solved when Quebec people don't come and shop in my thing? Why would you actually use your distinct society clause to do what is, again, in vernacular you'd understand, unconstitutional by ruling of the Supreme Court? Only a province full of raging, arrogant pricks would think that that's appropriate response.
But wait a minute, aren't they just trying to preserve their culture and pass it on to the generations? I mean, don't a lot of people do that, Jeff?
Not at gunpoint.
What are you talking about? You didn't mention anything about guns.
They forced the issue against the issue of freedom. You can't preserve culture by force. Culture has to be chosen. You can't force the next generation to accept your culture. They either will or they won't. But if you try and legislate it, all you get is a whole bunch of resentment, which is what Quebec often faces in issues dealing with Western Canada and even Ontario. That's my opinion as an Ontarian, seen from the outside. I'm sure the Quebecois would disagree, but that's been my experience watching them grow up. And I've got lots of friends and family who come from Quebec, and like I said, individually, lots of people in Quebec I like. But from a political standpoint and the way they've chosen to protect their heritage through doing things that are a violation of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, you can't get any respect from me when that's what you resort to.
So, okay, do you think any Quebecois have played Wrassle or FedEx?
I know they have.
Other
Really?
Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
He's Quebecois?
But he moved out to the West Coast.
Oh, so he's liberated. Once he crosses the border, he's out of that mentally?
Yeah, I've talked to him. He's completely forsaken them. He's Canadian 100%.
Or
So he
Australian.
says Australian too, yeah.
Right. What about like Burnt and Ice? Are they Quebecois?
Burnt lives in Ontario, but based on his name, it certainly sounds like he has some French background. I don't know if he's from Quebec or not. Burnt actually lives only about 30 minutes from me.
So you could stalk him if you wanted. Take naked pictures and stuff.
That's disturbing on so many levels.
No, what's disturbing is that he used to date Stone Babe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Didn't know.
And she was like 15.
Well, that's disturbing.
Oh.
How old was he?
Not 15.
He was at least 10 years older, I think.
Wow.
Like 30, actually.
Okay.
At
Oh, yeah, it
least.
must have been closer to 30, yeah. You're right.
Well, that's just...
Notice how I was quiet for 10 minutes, but as soon as you talked about underage dating, I chimed right in.
Well, you're the master of it. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
All right. Anybody else have any closing thoughts for us? No? Well, then let's go to the closeout. And really, I tried to find a Vince McMahon finish for us, but I couldn't. The obvious perfect answer in closing to a discussion about commissioners would be a really great "you're fired."
We should just do it. We'll just say, Titus, folks, you're fired.
You've got the floor, Jason. Give us one.
Which Jason?
The other one's Miller. You give us one.
Let me go second. I got to think. I'm sorry.
Jordan, close us out. Let's get out of here.
Titus, folks, you're fired.
And with that, we will wrap up our Federation X podcast running on Tangents 2-part series with Titus Fuchs.